Hello, welcome to the Mom Series of Misunderstanding of Multiplicity and also Flower Species Channel and Biage and Klutz Knitting and Crochet. Yeah, I'm going to combine all three channels that I have out there. For those of you that didn't know, I came out here in 2007 and I've had this channel going for a long time, and I know that I have a much different view than some folks about multiple personality or dissociative identity disorder. I know that I do, and that's because I was diagnosed in 1986, and even though nothing has changed regarding this experience, condition, some call disorder, some call it gift, some call natural, whatever it is, the only thing that changes is the name, and when media romances it, gives it awareness, and when psychiatrists and psychologists and therapists make money and profit off of it and believe in it, and others don't believe in it. So the only thing that changes over and over and over again is who chooses to believe in alters, alter egos, parts, fragments, and the cause, whatever the cause is. Most people agree that it's caused from a trauma or repeated severe trauma between the ages of 0 to 6. We now know that it can be any trauma. It used to be it had to be sexual abuse, it had to be abuse. But we know from the classic case of 3 Faces of Eve, story of Christine Costner-Sizemore, that the trauma was what she saw happen to somebody else. She was never abused. The trauma was being with in a situation that frightened her out of her mind at a young age, and then older, over and over again. Really bloody, nasty situation, and a really morbid situation. Was she abused? No. Did she see too much? For her mind, she did. And I think when it comes to trauma work, people are really starting to hone in on what do people start to consider normal in their life. And it's no longer a trauma. Think of it this way. If you go to boot camp, which if you go all the way back, what Dr. Morton Prince said is who is the father of multiple personality in Northern America. He studied under Dr. Jean-Martin Chicot, who was the great neurologist of the Salpêtrière in Paris, France, in the late 1900s. And Dr. Jean-Martin Chicot had this women's unit, which was all women that he called hysterics. And they acted like they had different personalities. And they would behave as though they were completely different. They had different accents. They were able to become children. They were able to act matronly. There was a lot of role playing that went on in the Salpêtrière Hospital. And so what I tell people is you really need to read Dr. Morton Prince, Multiple Personality, the disintegration of personality, to see where a lot of these theories come from and how he forwarded that from Dr. Jean-Martin Chicot, who, if you want to read a really good book, it's Medical Muses by Asti Hustvedt, Hysterics in the late 19th century. And what was founded is that these women that Dr. Chicot would have all the psychiatrists, the neurologists, the painters, the entertainers, the writers, the great poets of the day, the government, people that would pay money to come see them. They were used as muses. They were celebrity patients. And what he did, what we found out later, what all these great psychiatrists and neurologists found out sitting under Dr. Jean-Martin Chicot is he was manipulating these women. They were behaving as what they thought they should. Okay, in an asylum, in that era, being a woman, they were sometimes rewarded with sexual pleasures, if they gave sexual pleasures. We know that one of the patients that was one of the was actually having a full-on relationship while she was in the hospital with a person that was treating her there. So that too, there's that. And then there's also simple things like being able to request for food they wanted, the wardrobe they wanted to wear, if they wanted to stay out on the grounds, being in lockdown or being in a nice bedroom. So there just was a lot that went into that. And at the end of his career, he tried very, very hard to find out what really was going on with these women. And he had to admit that he was part of the equation. Now, I'm not saying doctors create it. What I'm saying is that iatrogenically, a lot of, and that means that from the treatment, from learning about the experience, the disorder, or whatever, people start behaving as such. Because they understand, they're like understanding, okay, I'm this way because, oh, but it's not me, it's another one. Okay, so-and-so, I supposedly have an alter that is very aggressive. So I guess when I'm aggressive, I'm her, or him, or that. So it really looks at all of that. So I really come to this channel looking at a lot of different, I don't just look at, did doctors create it? No. I look at it, it takes two. It takes two. And then when you get media in it, and textbooks, and the founding fathers of multiple personality and D.I.D, and hysteria, and all the things that they've called it, DDNOS, all the things they've called it over the years, I bring that to it. And how cinema and psychiatry pretty much went to bed together in the 1940s. Cinema producers went to psychiatry and said, show us what a hysteric looks like. What would a neurotic woman look like? What would a dangerous serial killer look like? What would a homeless person look like? What would a junkie look like? What would a... I just went on and on. What would just a worrywart person look like? What would an autistic person look like? And directors, producers, and actors studied with psychologists and psychiatrists. This is their craft. They studied to take on those traits and to show us on film. And we started seeing in the 1950s, in the 1960s, hot tin on what was it? I can't think of it right now. I'll think of it in a minute. Something on a hot tin roof with Liz Taylor and Burton. I'll think of it in a minute. Tin roof. Cat on a hot tin roof. We started seeing that, and it showed domestic violence and the sex and the passion and the really dark side of marriage. We started seeing Rosemary's Baby, The Birds. We started seeing the spiritual, the psycho horror flicks. We started seeing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. We started seeing dramatizations of women being carted off to mental hospitals, and men that were serial killers and how they thought. And we started seeing what a junkie looked like. Like, oh, they're in the corner, you know, they always look disheveled and messed up, and they're gonna go crazy. We started seeing what veterans coming back from war looked like they were gonna flashback. And not only were they reliving it, but now they were freaking out on everybody and killing people and slugging people and knocking everybody out. Do you think that's what post-traumatic stress is? We started seeing women that had nervous breakdowns, just going off to hospitals, nervous exhaustion. There's no such thing as a nervous breakdown. There are only breakthroughs. Okay, so media is very powerful. Very powerful. When it comes to multiple personality and dissociative identity disorder and bipolar, and now they are creating the epidemic of, they create disease. They create, that's what they do. Okay? And our government creates, the FDA, the APA, the AMA, the World Health Organization, the CDC. They would not make money if you and I were healthy. If you and I didn't go to a doctor for any symptomology, anything we, like, I wonder what this is. Let me ask my doctor. Okay, that's the beginning. Someone told me I'm doing this and it's not okay. Really? Who told you you're not okay? Why did you believe them? Really? Okay, so my last video actually was an upload from last year. I used to come out here and make videos every day and talk about my experience of being diagnosed, excuse me, with multiple personality, which is what it was called in 1986. I'll be 60 years old in May. The thought then was that I had too much trauma, too much turbulence in my home, and that I couldn't remember it, but other parts of me could remember it, and they were still reacting to it. I never forgot it. I never forgot it. You don't forget that kind of trauma. You forget. Here's how it goes. Actually, you forget the good times during that time. If you think about representations where people are presenting, and I've said from the beginning, I do not shake my finger at how people present with their multiple system group. However, I draw the line when they have a Patreon page and they were diagnosed a year ago, and within that year, their doctor told them, you're okay, you're all better, and they know everything about D.I.D. Oh my God, they know so much. Now, there's a wealth of information out there, but they know their entire group. They know who was created for what. They know how many altars they have. They know their inner system landscape. They know within 1 year. And they're out here making videos, talking about everything, and they're very comfortable on switching on camera, although a few of y'all go off camera to switch. It's more like this. I'm going to refer to myself. My name is Maria. I'm going to act like I'm another person observing me. Wow, Maria's usually shy. She's really outspoken today. I wonder if it's a different personality. Okay, that's how it is after the diagnosis of multiple personality. Before the diagnosis of multiple personality, it was, Maria's usually so shy. I wonder what's up with her. Oh, wow. I've never known Maria to curse. Man, she's really into that religion stuff. Whew. God this, God that. Praying over this. Holy oil over that. Ooh, she's in a bad mood today. She's in a really, really bad mood. I mean, she's acting weird. What's up with Maria? She's acting like she doesn't know us. Okay, it's subtle. It's subtle. There were no explanations. I didn't come out and say, hey, my name is, okay? When I was given permission to do that, when I was told I should do that, when I was told, when you're doing this, you are this one. When you're doing that, you are that one. Good example. I was going to do a knitting. I'm still going to do a knitting video. Back in the day, when I was 27, 28, I was drawing, I was sketching, I was painting, and I was knitting and crocheting. Excuse me. And I got very, very involved in a project I was doing. And one of my children was very used to just, interrupting me and saying, Mom, I want to do this. And I said, wait a minute. I said, when I'm done doing this. And that child said, but Mommy. And I kept right on knitting. And I knew full well that I was knitting. I knew that I was knitting. I also knew that I was ignoring that child because that child wanted to do something that was not allowed to do. I had already said no. 5 times, I'd always said, no, not going to happen tonight. Nope, nope, we're not going there. Nope, nope, we're not making the ice cream run over there. There's ice cream in the freezer. Nope, we're not doing it. And I just kept right on knitting. Now, I went somewhere in my head where she just kept up. She was gonna, I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna do this. Really? I know where the ice cream place is. I'm gonna go get it myself. Blah, blah, blah. I kept knitting. Now, out of my mouth came, she was watching me. After a while, she started watching me. And after, out of my mouth came, and I could hear it. Hello, I'm Joanna. And I could hear it, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't stop my mouth from saying that. Okay? So that's how I experienced an alter named Joanna. I just was, I removed myself. I said to the child over here, my child, I said, you are not getting ice cream, and I don't care if you threaten to run away. I don't care if you threaten to go tear up your room. I mean, she's a very sweet gal, but I mean, this is what she was just having a night where she wanted her ice cream. She was just really stuck on, I want my mint chocolate chip ice cream. I want my coffee ice cream. She wanted a scoop of this and a scoop of that with sprinkles on top. And I usually did this for her. But that night I said, I'm not doing it. Why? I don't have a reason. We're just not doing it. I didn't have a reason. I had the money. I was knitting. I was busy knitting. Now, she kept up. And then she was in a bad mood with her brother, and then they got into it. And, you know, she would go storm off to her room, slam her door. Puberty back then, I think. And I remember saying, I'm Joanna to her. Now, I don't remember anything else that I was doing at that moment other than I was knitting. And she was saying, when are you going to be done? And what are you doing? Why it's going to, you know, it's going to be past my bedtime. We're not going to be able, because this was a nightly thing. We went for a walk to go get a yogurt, frozen yogurt, ice cream. And so it was very, you know, it was very typical to do that. So it was very weird to not be doing that, because it was something we did. I hadn't promised it to her. It was something she expected. So she wasn't being naughty. She was just being persistent. She's a very sweet girl. So, I mean, what came up later is, my kids knew that I had MPD. But what came up later is that Joanna is the one that sits and knits and crochets. And when Joanna's out, she's very quiet. She's very, I mean, she just gets into whatever she's doing. Another time I was drawing, sketching. I was very aware of what I was sketching and what was going on around me. And saw my hand writing on the painting. So these are moments of disassociation. I saw myself signing the painting that I was doing, the little sketch that I was doing, and I think I was doing it in charcoal that day. And what I was sketching was a picture of a woman that was another alter in me. Now I really don't think of myself as having the skills that Joanna had to draw, to paint, to write, to knit. She did it with much more ease. Okay. Reverse all that, all the way back to my childhood, during a really, really horrible time. I remember going to have to stay with relatives, and I was going between my grandmother and my grandfather's house and my Aunt Joanne's house and her kids. And my aunt was very crafty. She was always decorating. She was always doing handicrafts. She was always doing stuff. I never really saw her knit, but I did see her crochet. But I always thought, I wished my mom could be more like my aunt, because she just didn't let anything bother her. Okay. I wished I could live in my aunt's, because all of her kids looked very happy, and I was happy when I was there. So it was a really horrible time. My mom had just been put in the hospital, and my grandmother was there, and my grandmother lived with us, and I kept hearing my mom was going to die, and she might be in jail, and we might never see her again, and they were going to kill her there. And what got us to that point was my mother and my father with a lot of domestic abuse going on back and forth. And when my mother tried to talk about it, my father would say she was paranoid. So by the time she got to the hospital, she was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Now, she was diagnosed by the family doctor, their family doctor, that had been in the family for years. But she had never, that was not her diagnosis in the mental hospital, which they only had state hospitals then. And they were like jails. There were bars in the window. There were bars in the window. You couldn't get out. And they were state hospitals. And she was there a good 6 months. And basically she was depressed. She was moody. She was probably more than likely a battered woman who maybe had some traumatic brain injury. Yeah. She was nervous, and she repeated herself, and she would just go off and start talking about stuff. And so they never said she was schizophrenic. But the folklore of the family was she was schizophrenic. And when she caught on to it, she started acting schizophrenic. She was taking a drug called Mellaril. Mellaril made her hallucinate. And during that time, it was very scary for me. Very scary. I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know. I just felt like I knew too much of the adult conversation. I had already seen what went on between my parents. I was terrified of both of them. I didn't trust neither of them. And this was all before the age of 5. So I had a very turbulent childhood. Where we were always, my brother and I were always being taken to one house and another. My mother and father just couldn't get along. And when my dad actually left, I helped him pack. I didn't know he was leaving, but he said he was going on a trip, and I said, oh, okay. And I remember I was in the bedroom. My mother was pounding on the door, screaming, and, you're not going in, don't leave, you can't leave. And if she could have grabbed onto his, like in the movies, if she could have grabbed onto his pant leg, he would have walked out with her dragging on the floor. Okay, bye. He would have been doing that. She just wouldn't let go. And she was like banging down that door. And he was like, and she was threatening him the whole time. She was like, okay, I'm going to call this one. I'm going to call your father. I'm going to call your brother. And I was like, young. I was young. And I was like, hurry, Dad, go on your vacation. Let me help you pack. Maybe she'll calm down if you're gone. Whew, that was a bad move. Okay, so I never stopped hearing about how I helped my dad pack. But what I actually remember about helping my dad pack is realizing that he was grabbing his clothes out of the drawer and out of the closet very quick and throwing it in stuff. And I was just helping him. I didn't even know. I didn't know he was going anywhere. I just knew. I was asking him, like, where are you going? And he was like, I'm just going on a little trip. I'm going to be back. I'm going to go on a vacation. I'm going to go on a train. That's what he told me. I'm going to take a train. I don't really remember making a conscious decision that I'm going to help my dad pack and leave my mom. okay? But I mean, I was packing like a pro for him. I was rolling up his pants, I was grabbing ties, I was flipping socks and coordinating them. Putting them in a suitcase, grabbing everything off the dress for me. It's like, no, honey, I don't need that. I remember part of it. And then it could be said that multiple personality, another part remembers another part, but it's really not significant. It's like during that bad time, I was helping him pack, but also there was another alter with me, a young girl that had been with me from very, very young, named Tony. And we moved differently. I was aware of her. I knew her presence was there, and we were both grabbing his clothes, but I was really conscious of, I'm only helping him pack because he's going on a vacation. She was conscious of, the marriage is over and you're helping him pack, let me do it. She was trying to help me. Like, no, dummy, don't be a dummy. He's leaving, Mom. Throw everything and don't, I'll do it. I'll do it. And so there was that splinter there. So it could happen in bad stuff that's going on. It can also happen in good stuff. Like there was bad stuff going on when I was watching my grandmother knit. When I was wishing I was my Aunt Joanne. When I was seeing arts and crafts club, my mother was being dragged to a hospital. I was hearing my mother's mother scream about, she's diabetic, she's going to die in jail. And I was thinking, why is she in jail? Shouldn't my dad be in jail? That was going through my head when I was little. But I was just paying attention. I was just being very still and taking it all in. And my grandmother was knitting. In between, I would go to my grandmother and my grandfather's house with my dad, and she would be knitting. And it was getting on like October, November-ish, that time period, September, October, November. So she was doing her knitting for Christmas and crocheting. And I just picked up needles and started following along. Now, could an altar be created to do a good thing while bad stuff is happening? You don't remember the good thing you're learning. Yes. Nobody talks about this. When a lot of bad was going on, when I was learning to knit. So later in life, I said, I don't know how to knit. I don't know how to crochet. I don't. Okay? So when Joanna was knitting, she could crochet better and knit better, just more fluidly. But I did know how to knit and crochet. Joanna just knew how to do it without as much nervousness. Let's put it that way. She could really center in on it. I'll give you a different example, because I don't think this is a good enough example. Doctors often will tell us, they'll be looking for, what does the altar like to do? What do they see their role in the group? What are they doing? Well, I'm the cook. I like to cook. Okay, does that mean I don't like to cook? Others will say, well, I like to go to work. I like to be at work. I'm the one that shows up at work, or I'm the one that shows up at school. Or I'm a protector, and they're all protectors. They're all protectors in one way or another. The protectors from feelings you felt that we all felt during either a really bad time that we couldn't understand. Here's the thing. During that really bad time, there's a lot of good that runs parallel to it. And sometimes we forget how to do the good things we learn because we were blocking out the bad. If you went to bed on Friday night after a long night of hearing your mother being beaten, and then hearing your father might be killed, and then the police, and then ambulances, and then being removed in the middle of the night to another home, and having to leave your home again, and go here and go there, and your cousin's making room in their bed, and your clothes are gone. Oh, give Maria something to wear. Yeah. Okay, if that is your life back and forth, I don't know where I'm going to school, I don't know where I'm eating breakfast in the morning, these two are going to go at it My mother's going to end up in the hospital. My dad's going to end up in jail. She's going to cry and scream and go get him back. Blah, blah, blah. This was kind of crazy that was very normal for me. And I actually prepared for it every night. I prepared for it, and I still couldn't quite prepare enough. So, and I'll just leave that there. I'll just leave that out there for people to ponder, because if you think again of, I didn't forget, I wanted to travel and come right back. If you think of a person going into the military or off to war, they're trained in a boot camp, okay? So it could be said, well, they prepare for all those situations. They train for being captured. They train, they do all those drills. They train for being alone, captured, tortured. They train for all that, and they go in on their own. They sign up. Okay, so how can they come back with post-traumatic stress? Because they prepared for it. This is another thought that doctors had was, well, you can only prepare so much. You can only prepare so much for what you're going to see and what you're going to go through. And you really, there is still that safety net of knowing I'm in boot camp. Nobody's going to actually let me die here. I'm not going to see anybody die here. And I'm going to see a lot of simulated things. I'm going to do a lot of role play. I'm going to do a lot of training. But it's not actually happening. Nobody knows what they're actually going to act like when it's actually happening. How are they going to survive? They go into survival mode. Okay, so you could be someone that was abused your whole life, sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally abused, neglect, and you could actually, that could become the norm. You adjust to the norm, and you try to prepare yourself emotionally. You go to your safe space or happy place. You go there, okay? But what psychiatry is asking us to believe is that every alter persona, alter ego, whatever, is what we don't remember. When actually we do remember it, we just don't have every little detail of it. Do you need every detail of it to know that you were raped? Do you need every detail? If you were raped, do you think you would remember that? Yeah, you don't forget it. If you were molested, do you need every detail? Like what color were the curtains in your bedroom? Do you remember the address you lived at? What was your mother doing? Where was your brother? What did he say to you? How did you know you were being raped? Do you need every detail? No. You know, somebody came in your room and they put their hands on you where it shouldn't have been, and they put body parts in you where it shouldn't have been, and you were young. Okay? If your mother slapped you and dragged you around the house all day and locked you in a room or in a closet or in a part of the house, a piece of furniture or something, would you need to know every detail? Like what led up to you ending up in the, how did you end up in that closet? Locked. How did you end up in that hope chest? Closed on you. How did you end up in there? Like, you might not remember how you ended up in there, but you know you ended up in there. Okay? And not always do the alter personas, others that came along to keep you company, really know all those details either. And I really just think doctors are starting to realize it more, clinicians, counselors that are working with people, and for them to say, you can't ever, you're just going to always be broken. You're going to always be destroyed and devastated and shattered and torn, and you have all these personas, fragments, whatever. How about littles? Let's talk about littles or kids. I never called them littles. We didn't call them. My doctor didn't teach me to call them littles. There was lots of textbook. There was lots of training. I was evaluated on a floor with a doctor who ran a multiple personality unit. My doctor and I really didn't want to believe I was. We wanted to believe it was complex post-traumatic stress, or really, they didn't even have complex post-traumatic stress then. It was just called post-traumatic stress. And I'll tell you something, when I was first being thought of to be diagnosed was when I was a teenager in high school. I went to a social worker. This is how long this goes back. In 1977, people in 1976, 75, 76, 77, veterans of Vietnam were coming back from war. Now, they didn't ask to go in Vietnam. A lot of the draft. It was a draft, and then, their life was going on fine, and they were drafted. So trauma, yes. So a social worker I was seeing during high school, who was helping me navigate the homes I was living in, which were several. I was living with my dad and my stepmom, which was a very interesting time period, and also going between my mother's house and then also going between a few friends' houses and trying to get my own apartment and graduate at 17. And I spoke out in a way that was in the girls' lavatory. I supposedly wrote everything that was happening in my home, and I threatened to kill myself. And I was 15, and 14 going on 15, and I wrote it all out in the bathroom. I have no memory of writing that in the bathroom. Found out later it was Tony who wrote it. Now, when I go back later and I look at all the work that the social worker and I did in school, he said to me, you really interest me because I'm meeting many different Marias, and we met every week. And I just thought of it as, well, it's a lot going on at home. They're making me see the social worker, no big deal. He said, have you ever heard of war fatigue? No. He said, well, the Vietnam War is over and people are coming back from the war. And he said, I've been studying something that was called war fatigue for years that I call post-traumatic stress. He was a pioneer of research. And he said, you're conveying the same symptoms, you're behaving the same way that veterans do when they come home from Vietnam. So now, if I put down on your folder here in school, you're in a folder, I was carrying a folder because people wrote on paper, and then so if I wrote it down, I would have to write that you have war fatigue from living in your home. He said, but I think I'm meeting many different Marias because there's gaps in your memory. He said, but you remember everything and you report it with complete, like a reporter reporting the news with no feeling. He said, and I keep waiting for you to connect to the feeling of what you're saying out of your mouth. No connection. That's a disassociation. Okay, so we know that now. My therapist's job later in life when I went to him was to help me with panic situations. I was having panic attacks. I was having flashbacks. And my body had pain that didn't make sense. I mean, places that were just, I was not depressed, I'm going to argue that one out. I wasn't depressed. I was exhausted. And so the picture was systemic clinical depression, somatoform illnesses, and then energetic, like energy up, energy down. No bipolar. It wasn't bipolar. And what he really helped me to do was connect to the feelings. And what I see multiple personality diagnosis, D.I.D, doing is assigning not only purposes like knitting is for Joanna, not for Maria, knitting is for Joanna, okay, telling off people is for Tony, cursing is for Tony, protecting is for Tony, cooking is for Rosie, being religious and praying is for Celie. What I see psychiatry still doing is doing that, saying, okay, who's disintegrating your personality? Who are you giving permission to pick apart your personality and put parts over here and parts over there and parts over there and parts over there? And parts still inside waiting to come out. You are. I am. Okay, but when we take ownership for, I'm angry. I'm pissed off at you right now, and I don't need Tony to tell you I'm pissed off. I feel like knitting today. I might do a really, really bad job of it. But I don't need Joanna to knit. I don't need to be Joanna to be sitting here knitting or crocheting or tatting or embroidering or painting or playing guitar. I don't need Astra to play guitar. Whoa! I can just go sit down and play guitar. Guess what? I forgot that I learned how to play guitar. I had a guitar. When I was a kid, I had a guitar. There was so much going on during that time period, so much turbulence and crazy, that when I was playing the guitar, it was Astrid and another girl named Margot that were playing the guitar. I played the organ. When I was playing the piano, it was somebody else. It was Taya. When I spoke too much, when I said something wrong, I was either the mouth. When I made a wrong look at somebody, I was the face. When I was really promiscuous and romantic, I was Jade. Okay, so how did I end up with all these personalities? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. And I think that putting them into categories, I think that disintegrates the personality and tells you and me we're broken, we're damaged forever, we're shattered, we're torn, we're crazy, we're mad, we're going to need therapy forever, and we're just... The flip side of that is to say to yourself, oh, it's all okay, it's all normal, and we're just going to keep switching and splitting, and we're going to play show and tell out here and do the dog and pony show and circus sideshow. And we're just going to keep announcing and changing our clothes and putting a hat on to be a guy and putting a purple scarf on to be Mrs. Plum and putting, it goes on and on. And I will continue to be the grandma on the porch that's just watching you all going, ooh. Ooh, bad rerun of the 1980s, 1990s, when media was really romancing multiple personality and all these psychiatric illnesses and things. Ooh, and then it was like, shame, 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 because lawsuits came up. Don't worry about lost time. Lawsuits came up for lost lives. Okay? Because suddenly people started remembering, wait a minute. I know how to do that. I don't need a different personality to do that. Good and bad runs parallel together. If you go to bed at night and your father's beating up your mother and you don't know if your mother's dead or alive and you're just falling asleep like this, you're not looking. You're afraid to look. Just like, and this is how you go to sleep every night. And you try not to hear anything. Don't you think you'd go someplace safe? Okay. Now, you're waking up in the morning, you don't know if your mother's going to be alive, and you go to the kitchen, and there she is with a black eye, her broken tooth, her head smashed in at the table. Your grandmother's there, and she's making your favorite pancakes and sunny side up eggs, and nobody's talking about what happened. I mean, you see the marks. But, I mean, I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying this happened to me. I'm giving you an example. So, now suddenly your grandma's there, and she's the one that you know loves you, and she's going to take care of you, and it's going to be okay. And now they're trying to get you involved with your cousins, and all your cousins are coming over, and she's making your favorite cake, and they're just trying to get you to forget. And you're doing all these fun things. Might you forget the fun things if you were still traumatized from the evening before? Could you really remember? My grandmother made a Texas sheet cake that day, and that's, oh my God, I love that cake. I love. Now you're sitting eating a cake one day, and and all this is rushing back to you, and you can't even connect to why. You're just like, what was it? Because you forgot about the cake too. You forgot the good thing. You forgot when the doctor came and you broke your leg. You forgot when the doctor showed up and made it better. You were still, he's gonna place my leg. He's gonna snap it into place. He's gonna, you don't remember that. If you break a bone, you go to the doctor. You break your arm, break your whatever. Go to the doctor. You remember. Oops, I'm slipping. You fell. Ooh, pain. Get to the doctor. They give you a little something to distance you from the pain. And at that moment when they said it, you don't know. You can't say, what was worse, breaking it or setting it? You don't know. Everything runs parallel. So all I'm saying is there's a lot of rethinking you need to do on this. And all the way back to the Salpeter, but before that, all the way back to before biblical times, it's been named many things. It's been called possession. It's been called somatoform illness. It's been called hysteria. It was called, and it's been called multiple personality, and it's been called melodramatic. It's been called a million things. Post-traumatic stress, war fatigue, complex post-traumatic stress, ABCDSY. I mean, alphabet soup. Why? What does it matter what the label is? Money. You go to a doctor, a counselor, a clinician, a social worker, which I am, social worker. Number one, let's pretend you come to me. I have to assess what's going on with you. I take your self-report. Now, if you want to include family and friends to collaborate or give me any input, you're welcome to bring them in. Somebody can call me and tell me something about you, and I have to come and call you and say, somebody called and said this, do you want to address it? I can't talk to them about what we're talking about. I can only let you know somebody called me and gave me this information. So maybe a family member calls and says, she really was abused. And they can collaborate that. But really what psychiatry has been doing for years now is trying to find a reason for what happened to you, find a purpose for why you're behaving the way you're behaving, and keep that in a medical trauma model without doing any investigating, because psychiatrists, clinicians, social workers are not allowed to investigate. So now you go to a doctor and you tell them your story, and your alters tell them their story, and all they can do is try to figure out why you need this story, why this story is working for you, why it makes perfect sense to this alter, to that alter, and to you, and how it's affecting your behavior, and try to get you to acknowledge possibly a lot of what's being said that isn't true. And they call that false memory. It's gotten pretty bizarre. Okay? So I look at everything. I'm very eclectic. I consider it all. I live my life with more than one. I live fine with more than one. But I didn't get to keep my children. My children at some point needed to go get better parenting, because it's not okay for parents to come home to a different, it's not okay for a child to come home to a different parent every day. Just like it wasn't okay for me to grow up the way I did. It's not okay for a child to come home to different alters parenting them. Now, if I had been married, maybe, and there was another caregiver, because I was divorced, if I had been married and there was another caregiver that was there that understood all those alters and personas and could be there 100% for that child, great. But in my case, I was physically ill and emotionally ill. And what made me physically ill was all the crap that happened to me when I was a kid. It came out at me all at once. You know why? Because when you're physically ill, when suddenly you're in pain and physically ill, what does it trigger? All the times you were like this, all the times you were physically ill, all the times you were afraid. Helplessness. If suddenly you're in pain and you can't get well and you can't make your body move and do what it needs to do, which is what I was at. I had meningitis. I had it several times. I was in a wheelchair. I had a lot going on. I had a brace on my leg. I couldn't get my leg to move. I had to stay in bed. I had to be on bed rest. The kids had nurses. They had homemakers. They had everything they needed, but it wasn't enough. They needed their mom. And I had my cousins came along and said, we will take care of the kids while you get better physically and do all your therapy. And then it was decided, you will integrate and stay integrated for 3 months, and then the kids will come home. We stayed very much all together, a family, and they did their parenting, and I did my parenting with the children up to so many years, and then they did theirs, and we've all stayed together parenting in one way. But what do you think my kids remember? They don't really remember the good that we had together. My daughter was 10 and a half. My son was going on 9 when they went to live with my cousins full time. And all I had to do was go on disability, get Medicaid, Medicare, stop working, and go to therapy all the time. What do you think happened to me? I got sicker. I got one sickness after another. What do you think happened to them waiting for me to integrate? The way it was seen as integration back in the day. A lot of false integrations, a lot of merges that were like, we would call them combos, my doctor and I. One day I would come into the office and he would be very aware that I was with Tony and Astrid and Celia, or Joanna and Jade and Tony, and we started doing these combos, like, oh my gosh, and Mimi, and there was me, Maria, and there were all these, and he would start to say, okay, I've talked to 3 of you today, and you're all aware of the fact that you're with each other, so that's good. And I would call it we would call it a combo, like, you're a combo today, you're working together, that's great, okay. And it wasn't until Trudy and the Troops came out with co-consciousness, co-running, that we understood what true co-running, co-conscious, and parallel living is, and embracing all that's with you and all that developed with you. And they're not bad personalities. It's not bad to switch and split or whatever. Split is such a weird word anyway. It's not, everybody has their own idea of how they switch. I don't even perceive it as switching. It's very fluid. It's very fluid. It goes more like Joanna loved to talk about nature, heckle a lot more than I did. If my therapist asked, what do you want to do? She'd be like, I want to go for a walk. Let's get out of here. Let's go to the park. and she didn't wear makeup. And she was drawn to animals more. She wasn't afraid of bees and wasps. And I'm allergic to them anaphylactically, so I would like jump the minute I saw them. She's more, you know, if it lands on me and kills me, I die today. You know, or maybe I don't. Now, what I realized is that I was told I was allergic, and I was. But my mother used to totally freak out when there would be bees and wasps around because she knew I was allergic. So she would like get me away. And at one time, I was in a swimming pool at my Aunt Joanne's and my Uncle Chris's house, and there were bees and wasps coming around. My mother went absolutely insane trying to get me out of the water. And my Uncle Chris was grabbing me and saying, Phil, it's okay. I got her. Nothing's going to happen to her. And there was this struggle going on. It was crazy. My mother couldn't swim. She didn't want to get in. My Uncle Joe was in the pool. Everybody was in the pool. And there was this tug of war. Like my mother was going, get her out of the pool. There's wasp. There was a wasp going around. And now I started screaming at the wasp. But something good happened there, too, is that I remember my Uncle Joe telling me, doggy paddle, doggy paddle. And I started swimming. And I just swam away from it. I'm going away from the wasp. Here I am going away from the wasp. But I had totally forgotten that. Okay, so now Joanna remembers it more. So she's perfectly comfortable with, she knows if something lands on her, it might sting her, and the body is allergic. She knows that. She knows that. It's not like she has her own body that isn't allergic to bees and wasps. She just doesn't react the way I do, which is freak out around them. Okay? So if I'm integrating and merging and blending or being a combo, I'm going to be more relaxed around those situations. So the goal of the therapist was always to integrate, merge, fuse. And in order to do that, you got to take back some of the memories. So if you just stop at, I did my therapy, I know I have D.I.D, and gee, I'm not having a problem getting along with the other alters. I know what their purpose is. I know what they like to do. I know where they live inside of me. I know when they usually come out. I know whatever. You'll never get there. You'll never get there. You got to go back and do the grunt work. You got to roll up your sleeves and get some elbow grease and go back to those traumas. Do you have to relive them, abrogate them, feel them, go through all that? Not really. Not really. Some of it, but you got to connect to at least the anger, the shame, the blame, the self-blame, the guilt, the embarrassment, makes me want to puke, the terror. You have to go back and connect to that just a little for a short moment and express it. Just express. You're pissed? Own it. I'm pissed. I may be pissed at you forever. Own it. You're a liar. You will always be a liar. I watched you lie your whole life. I don't like you. I don't trust you. Own, I don't trust you. Own, I don't like you. Own, I may love you, but I don't like you. Own it. Own, I don't like my body. I want to be thin, really thin. This is not thin enough. Do you have to have an alter that's anorexic? You don't like the way your body looks. Okay. I feel like being sexy. I want to be really sexy. I want to be damn dirty sexy. Okay? Oh, sizzling hot, nasty, sexy. Do you have to have an altar that is hot mama out there? Own it. You want to be sexy. You want to be special. Own it. It's okay to want to be special. Okay? What else? Be true to you. Be true to you. My God. There's so many play acting out here. Just be true to you. What else? The littles. Like I said, I wander and I come back. If you stick with me long enough, I wander all over the planet. Come right back to square one. I never called younger people in my group. I was very uncomfortable with naming them. I was very uncomfortable with naming my group. My doctor never asked me to do that. I knew that it was in multiple personality, that you should have a name for your system group. That I was very uncomfortable with inner landscape. I remember when my doctor sat me down and said, can you describe who's where inside of you? I described it like a hotel. And I would call it a mosaic hotel. Because there were stained glass windows. And what I was remembering was being in a church. Because that was the safest place I felt. Safe was in a church called St. Andrew's Church. And I would look up at the stained glass windows. And I would be, oh my God, safe, finally. And my home was right next door. My home was here, where all kinds of horrible was happening. And the convent was right here. The driveway was here. The convent was here with all these holy sisters in there living. They were also our teachers. Right next door was the school that I went to, the Catholic school. And behind all that, in our backyard, kitty corner, was the rectory, where the priest and the Monsignor lived, and Bishop would come once in a while, and oh my God, all these holy people were there, all these people that were going to keep me safe. And the church doors were open all the time. Back in that time period. So why would I have something that looks like a hotel inside of me that's full of stained glass windows, that's very mosaic? With all different compartments and rooms. And all of the rooms in the inner landscape are like confessional rooms. Those little booths that you go sit in and just kind of like, it's quiet in here. You know, curtains and yeah. So that's why my inner landscape is actually a church that was right next door to me. But I always called it hotel, mosaic hotel, because there were different levels, there were different rooms and places, and that's where all of me was. When I would run to the church and swing open the doors and run in and just get in a pew and just be waiting like, oh, I wonder when they're going to realize I'm not home. I could go there in the middle of the night. Even in the middle of the night. If my parents were really going cuckoo and they didn't know what I was doing, I would just fit out the door, into the church, open that door. Something happened around 1971 to 73. They locked those doors because the riots had been going on. And it was no longer safe to keep the church doors open all night. But they used to be open all night. And there was always somebody there. So look into what your inner landscape is. Why you created it to be what it is. It's not such a mystery. It's not so scary. It all helped you survive and live. But to continue to be out here trying to normalize it and yet calling it a disorder and not owning any of those feelings, so you may never be able to get the altars to actually go away because they developed with you. So you may never be one. You may always be more than one. But your whole together. So you're not broken, you're not tattered, you're not distorted. We never called the littles because they don't act that way. They act, I have one that was younger, her name was Petunia. And I have a few others, Onion, one named Onion, one named Petunia, and one even younger that does not want to be named, and that's fine. Littles would be very demeaning. To call them littles would be very demeaning, because they've actually been around longer. And I'd say some go all the way back to the spirit world. Okay, and I will come back and talk about that another time. Some of us can actually remember being in a place other than this, and it is spirit, and it's not an alter reality. No, it's that some of them actually remember consciously saying, I'm going to go live with this person. And their purpose might be when I die. Their purpose might be to be there when they might be spiritual, or they might be, I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. But there are young that go all the way back to womb. They can remember the womb. 2 of them can remember not wanting to come out of the womb. It wasn't time yet. And when you talk to them, that's what they talk about. It wasn't time for us to be here. It was premature. And it turns out I was premature. So who knows? We don't know everything. We don't know. We only know in part on this earth. There's so much spiritual we don't know. There's so much divine. There's so much creativity. There's so much we do in our mind to create all day and to live and to get through bad and to get through procrastinating and to get through fitting in with others and being okay enough. But I wanted to make kind of like this big introduction all over again. I did it in 2007. I'm doing it again now. There were only 3 people out here when I came out here and told the world I was diagnosed with multiple personality in 1986, with 3 other people talking about it. Sidians 3, Tommy Jameson, same group. So here we are. Lynn, Jamie, Michaela, who passed away 2 years ago. Janice, Greasley, and Alan, her husband, they both passed away 2 years ago. Tommy Jameson and her wife have taken a little break. They're taking a different route in their life now, opening up different venues. But Tommy was out here with Melissa and her entire group. There were other people that were out here doing representation videos, artistic videos to express their group and who they were with. There were others that were doing text, whatever's, videos. And there were others that were doing DDNOS, which now would be called a dissociative disorder. That's all it would be called. Being on the dissociative spectrum. There's a spectrum to human life. So, I look at it this way. Human behavior evolves. We grow. I think the problem I have with the medical trauma model, the problem I have with the medical trauma model is it tells us we stop developing. We chuck our brain, our emotions. We can't learn anything new. We are what we are by a certain time period, and the trauma destroyed us. It broke us. It shattered us. Now, Were my parents monsters? No. Was I a monster to my children? No. It comes down to we are imperfect human beings, and we are very much, the apple does not fall far from the tree. What we grew up with, we have to heal from. Everyone has some trauma in their background, and nobody knows how much trauma a person can take, and nobody knows what trauma is for you and what trauma is for me. Okay, so we're all walking around healing from something. And do we screw up and make mistakes as parents? Hell yeah, we do. Now, are there consequences? Yeah, there are. Are we sorry later? Yeah. Is it better for a child to go here and there while you're doing all your healing? Yeah. Okay, when you switch, does that mean you have amnesia? No, because you're co-running and you're able to switch. If somebody asks you, if somebody says to me right now, I want to talk to Tony, I guess if I tried hard enough and if she really wanted to come forward, and if there was something going on interesting her or somebody she wanted to see, she would come right out. Guess what? I would know she would come out. I would know exactly what she said, what she did. I would know. I would hear it. I would feel it. I would know it. I would be a part of it. I would be like this. My name is Joanna. I hear myself saying, my name is Joanna. Like I was knitting. But when my daughter was going, come on, now I want to go. I'm doing my best impression of my daughter. When my daughter was doing that, I was saying, my name is Joanna. Like, I'm not your mom, I'm Joanna. Okay? Okay, so that's the video, and take care, everyone, and thanks for listening. I'm going to go catch my phone, or I might just let it ring, because I think I know who it is. It's a telemarketer. I'm going to let it ring. Okay, so all I had to do is glance at the TV. Oh, yeah, that number again. It's Sam, the scam man from Microsoft, telling me that my computer is generating errors. Or it's Sam, the scam man, trying to get me a medic alert bracelet. Or it's Sam, the scam man, with the Filipino accent. Was going to try to sell me a brace for my back, my hip, my knee, my head, my butt. They call all day. Okay, so very much like co-consciousness. I'm knitting. I see that I'm knitting, but I don't really, I'm like, okay, I'm knitting, but I'm not really connected to the knit. I'm just not connecting to ball of yarn. I'm unwound. I'm disconnected from this. There's a big knot there. I can't get over that. Whatever. Metaphorically, I am just sitting here knitting, but I'm spaced out. Okay? But I hear myself say, I'm Joanna, in a very calm. So my daughter is like pulling on me, like, going, Mom, come on, let's go get the ice cream. Let's go get the frozen yogurt. Because after dinner, what did I always do? My kids will remember this. We, in the summertime, we went walking to a little place that was a frozen yogurt place. And they did have ice cream there too, but they had frozen yogurt, and she really liked one little tiny thing after dinner. And it was something I did with the kids all the time. That night before I sat down to knit, and I was really frustrated. I was like, I want to teach myself to knit this pattern. And I was really trying to learn it. I was looking at a book. And then Joanna was just knitting. Just no need a book, no problem. Just not gonna give up. And what Joanna thought, I was able to communicate with her through journal and everything. What Joanna thought was, well, she was calling her mom and you weren't answering. She was calling her mom. and you weren't answering. And I was just there knitting. So I just turned around and said, I'm Joanna. And she wrote, the same thing happened when she was sketching one day. So when you say you're switching, some people can have it so fluid that they totally have memory. They don't have amnesia. Okay. When you say you have lost time, what did you lose? The good that went on right alongside the bad? All the good that went on right alongside the bad, and maybe some of the details of the bad. Maybe because you lost this good, you couldn't give all the details of the bad. Think of it like an investigator in a crime scene, and it's got a bunch of witnesses. And maybe this best example is the assassination of John Kennedy. Depending on what you were doing, where you were, if you were bending down to tie your child's shoelace, if you were lifting your child up in the air, if you were running to see the motorcade, you saw something different, and your whole experience was different. And that's very much like co-running. Joanna, but is it Joanna? Because now I know how to knit. So now it's just me and Joanna. It's just us. So I wanted to make that video. I know I do sound like the Porch Grandma out here sometimes. Because a lot of the folks that are my age are no longer out here talking because they don't want to go through the we're taking D.I.D. right out of the DSM because you all went too crazy with it. That's exactly what's going to happen with the over-awareness and the over-role-playing and the over-investment. I don't even want to go to the role-playing because there are some groups out here that are playing with it, and we know exactly who they are. We all do. But I said from the beginning, I'm not going to call out a group and say you're BSing, but I will call out groups that are definitely taking people's money for show and tell, dog and pony shows, and freak sideshows, because you're not doing anything to stop the stigma. You're not doing anything to stop the fear, the specialness of it, the rareness of it. You're accentuating it. You are doing the very behavior that we saw on the talk show junkets years ago. You're doing the very behavior that we saw on the primetime specials, that we saw in those movies like Sybil. You're doing it. You're doing it. The fact that you have a Patreon page and you're asking for content and you got a big old audience doesn't mean shit to me. Doesn't mean shit to me. Just means that you found a way to make money. You're a brilliant actor. In the end, you will have to come back and say to yourself, if there truly is trauma in your background, and I believe there is, you'll have to say, when's it time to stop playing and deal with that trauma? Does that mean multiple personality and dissociative identity disorder and all these things are fake? No, they're real. They're experiences. There are some traumas that are too hard to go back and get, that we need to take breaks from, and you don't need to relive the whole thing, and there's just some things that just get buried. But when you're out here trying to represent D.I.D. and awareness and ending stigma 1 year after your diagnosis, and you no longer need a therapist, and you know everything about it, and you're really comfortable switching, being different people, but all you gotta do is color your hair, put a different hat on, dress different, and you're somebody else. You want to read psychiatry and cinema. They got together in the 1940s Every director, every good director will tell you all they really need to do to direct an actor into a scene, into a role, is have them put their shoes on and their clothes on. Set them in that situation long enough. Have them adjust their speech. Maybe walk with a cane. Have a lisp. Practice that. Some actors and actresses cannot give it up. Later, they continue to talk with a lisp. They continue to walk a little bit crooked. They continue to twitch. Whatever their character had to do, those things that they took on, that they tried on them, don't fall off that easy. And they know how to go right back into character. Okay? The same can be said for actors and actresses will take on good attributes from a character role they played. In other words, they had to play a character that maybe was very happy-go-lucky, and maybe they're not. They had to be that way and stay in character in that scene for that long. And it adjusted their behavior. It adjusted their personality. They tried it on. And it worked for them. And they liked it. They liked that about that character. They're like, oh, that's such a fun character to play because... And it stayed with them. This is what Steven Spielberg and his wife, Kate Capshaw, were looking at when they decided to make United States of Terra. And they got Diablo Cody on board to find writers in blogs, which one of them was me, and another was Leah Peterson, who Leah Peterson became a specialized writer because she was writing about every kind of mental health disorder out there, and she became somebody that Diablo Cody got very, very close with and then consulted with, and they were in a huge room with a bunch of writers, and they wanted to show it in a way that could normalize it, could be a dramedy, they could poke fun at it, they could show a family getting on in a community and show that actually Terra made sense. But about the time they did a show where Terra made sense in season 2, show 8 and 9. Terra actually looked like the only sane one in her family. The viewer is shown that on United States of Terra, Terra makes more sense than her husband, her kids, her sister, and her parents. She makes perfect sense. The ratings dropped. It only takes 2 shows for the ratings to plummet, to not be picked up another season, especially when you get to show 8, 9. It was clear that what the audience wanted was, they didn't want the truth. They didn't want the truth that sometimes you're running with some people that are a little crazy. They didn't want the truth. They didn't want the truth that maybe this woman made sense and knew more with everyone than maybe she was saner than all of them. The audience, the market, didn't want that. They wanted multiple personality, the crazy. So they wrote it right off the crazy train. So I came out here from 2007, and then I knew in 2009 that the show was going to be coming out, and I followed it every single show in Broken Town. I got very comfortable out here, shared my experience, everyone that's in my system group. I shared a lot about my personal life, and the alters that were with me at the time did personal introductions. And my family became very uncomfortable with it. And honestly, I was uncomfortable too. But I was reading my mail, what people wanted to meet different people and know, and at some point my daughter and my son said to me, Mom, we know you're multiple and we understand it. We totally get it. And they actually don't. I know they don't. And our whole family, we get it. We know. I'm like, no, you don't. And this is the only way I'm going to be able to show you. And they understood that. And I said, look, I've been with so many that have been your mother with me and been with our family with you. And I'm so much better with them. But you don't. You guys think that's bad. I have to just be me in order for you kids to be around and everything, and they're grown adults, they're in their 30s now. I said, well, but we're starting relationships, we're starting jobs and this and that and everything. Let us be the ones to tell people, my mom has multiple personality or D.I.D. You don't have, we don't want them to go find you out there. So can you just calm down with that? And I did. And along came D.I.D. awareness. Jess and Gareth and everyone there. And the UK exploded with D.I.D. because there's a very important man over at the Potter's Gate who was here in the United States wanting to take the DSM criteria, bring it to the manuals in the UK. And when he did, he got a specialized place called Potter's Gate, which diagnoses people like that with D.I.D. Who do you think's making the money? That's another thing. Be careful. Specialized unit. You don't need a specialized unit. You don't need a D.I.D. specialist to understand what's going on. You survived. You coped by creating whatever the heck you needed. And was some of it magic? Oh, yeah. Was most of it from grabbing anything that was around you, including cartoons on TV, including a stuffed animal, including maybe a favorite person, a fictive that's in a TV show. Anything you could grab as a child, which is why they say between 0 and 6. But we know that trauma that can happen later, if you already are prone to creating what you need and going to your happy place, if you're already used to being afraid enough to need help and a savior, angels, Jesus, God, whatever. I can remember disappearing inside of a lamp in my bedroom. I remember just dissolving, like floating towards the lamp and thinking I'm going to crash into the lamp. And my body was on the bed. I'm going to crash right into my lamp. And that won't be good. How far can you disassociate? Right out of your head. Is it always dangerous? No. Nobody else knows it's really going on. But you do. You feel it. You feel like, this body feels wrong. My clothes feel too tight. I feel really fat in this body. I feel really fat. I look really fat. Man. What the heck? Yeah? Who asked for these? These really blew up on me. You look in the mirror. Wow, that just doesn't look like me. It doesn't look like me. It's dysphoria. It's part of disassociating. It's exactly what happens in a panic attack. Ooh, I didn't know I had. You're suddenly aware that you have a heart. In the middle of a panic attack? Oh, I have a heart. Oh my God. Huh, that's all I have. I feel a heart. It's right there. It's driving me nuts. Right? It's beating out of my tongue. Ooh. I I feel my food digesting. Holy moly, my stomach's twisting around and doing all these funky things. And ooh, I can hear really loud. There's whooshing in my ears. Oh, I got a pain right there. Pain. I can't move my leg. Suddenly aware I'm wearing a bra. Does that make you a man? No. You're in a panic attack. You're suddenly aware. This bra feels weird on me. Because it's a tactile stimuli. You're not used to it. When you're in a dissociation, you're like, why do people pull at their clothes when they're in a panic attack? Have you ever seen a person distraught, in panic, in fear, in a heightened sense of self? Like, I used to call this channel the oversensory mode, or sensory overload. I used to call it sensory overload, because suddenly you're aware, like I'm aware, like, oh, my bra keeps going down my arm. That's because my shoulder is crooked, my neck is crooked, my back is crooked, my spine is crooked. Okay, so this is always falling off of here. What if I'm in the middle of a panic attack and that's how I feel? Is, oh, would I be grabbing at it? If suddenly your clothes felt tight on you because you are aware of them? If you're panicking, suddenly everything feels too tight, you're grabbing at your tie, your shirt, everything. So now, is it, what came first, chicken or the egg? What came first? It's all part of panic. It's all part of trauma. It's all part of being scared and not knowing what to do. When we admit we're afraid, disease will end. When we just face the fear and say, I'm afraid. You don't need anything else. When you look at the wasp and you say, I'm afraid. When you want to go see your parent, but you're afraid you might actually tell them off. Or they might hurt you. Still, they might say something to you that will make you go to a place that you don't want to go to. Say, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. We are very fearful people. We call ourselves courageous and brave, but we're very fearful if we're not connecting to the feelings and we're constantly saying, this one's a protector and that one's a defender and this one is an accountant and this one does the home stuff and this one is sexy and this one is, I'm afraid to be sexy. I'm afraid to be fat. I'm afraid to be thin. I'm afraid to go to work. I'm afraid to, because who goes to work? You have an office that goes to work. You don't go to work. You don't do that. Oh, you don't sleep with your husband that you live with. Somebody else does that, another altar. You're afraid of sex. You're afraid of intimacy. You're afraid of coloring. You're afraid of playing with a doll. Let me tell you something. When I'm holding this yarn, it's soft, it's cuddly, it's cozy. If you're a crafter, if you love knitting and crocheting, you know what it's like to go to the store and go, ooh, that's really nice. And walk away like this, right? Replace that with a stuffed animal and now I'm a kid. Not allowed to do that. Oh, don't pick up a stuffed animal. Not a kid. But we do it with clothes. We're like, oh, that's so soft. I like that. We do it with yarn, right? Adults are coloring. But if I got caught coloring when I was diagnosed with multiple personality, it would have been a little kid. Adults like to curl up like this, too. Plenty of adults talk baby talk to their lovers. It happens all the time. Are you suddenly a kid? When you go to a candy store and you see toys that you like that remind you of yesteryear or when you were growing up, things you just thought were fun, do you know how to play? Do you know as an adult how to play without having to assign that to a little kid that had a trauma and is another person? Do you know how to just play? There is so much disease from fear. Fear of your own self. Fear of myself. Fear. I'm going to tell you what a very sweet soul told me a long time ago. He was known for the color purple. He was known for being a master musician, producer, director, sketcher, drawer, writer. He was quite amazing. The one thing he knew is what you fear, you will get. What you think will be your truth. And the only thing you have to worry about in this life is being you. Being true to you. That means you can change your mind. It means if you say, no, I don't want to go do this thing, then you really don't want to. If you change your mind later and you're like, felt pushed into it, okay, I'll go. You really weren't ready. When you're really ready to do something, you will do it. You really want something bad enough, you'll just do it. When you really want to go for what you were born to be here on this earth to do, you will know that you know, and nobody will be able to stop you. Sickness won't stop you. Fear won't stop you. Another person telling you you're not good enough won't stop you. Another person telling you you can't do that won't stop you. A big old hater club won't stop you. When you find your true purpose in life and you're not afraid to go and do that and fail, which would be your biggest fear, right? And mine. What if my purpose I fail at? When you face it, you'll be okay. My biggest purpose in life has been to be me and to share this experience with you. It's my only purpose. I was born to be a mother. I failed. I failed that test. Can I retake the test? I keep trying. I keep trying different areas of the test. That's all I've got now. I did become a very good social worker. I became a lot of wonderful things. But what is my purpose? For having lived this experience is to keep telling you, you're not broken, you're not shattered, you're not torn. Your trauma did not make you unfixable. Maybe there was nothing to fix in the first place. Maybe you were fixing it. Maybe you were never broke. Maybe you were fixing it by creating others or what you needed. Maybe you connected with God, who said, you can be anything you want to be. You could be anything you want to be, baby. You're my child. You want to be a strong man right now? You want to be sexy? You want to be a little kid right now? You want to be matronly now? You want to be holy now? Be it. Be it. There are times I look back at scriptures I've read and faiths, because we got a lot of faiths here. We got a lot of faith. Now, when I lived with my dad and my mom, my dad and my stepmom, I studied with Jehovah's Witnesses. And I went to the Kingdom Hall because my dad and my stepmom became Jehovah's Witnesses because her parents were. When I was with my mother, I was Catholic, and I was a little bit of a witch. I'll explain that later. I was astral. When I was with my mother, it was very astrology, moon, stars, mythology, Catholic. But not going to go to church Catholic. That's what my mother was. I'm going to worship the saints. I'm going to say the novenas. I'm going to do this and that. And see how the stars align. But I'm not going to go to church. She didn't trust church. She didn't trust houses that said they were churches anymore. I always wondered why my mom, living right next door, and I found out when she was passing away. I was blessed to be with her when she passed away. And even though some of our those last days she was just horrible from the amount of morphine they were giving her and just all the pain she was in. When she passed away, I knew everything I needed to know about her life. And you know what I knew? I knew that she married exactly the man that she had grown up with her father. And I knew that she was not wanting to become her mother. And I knew there's such a wisdom in dying when you're with a person that it all makes sense. Their spirit just totally. My mother was with me every day, reminding me, this is why I did that. This is why I behaved that way. This is why I did that to you. This is why. I study your generation and know that spiritually, those things you do pass them on. Are there generational curses? Yeah, there are. Can they be broken? Yeah. But you can't blame it on a curse. You got to do something actively to make it better. Are there cycles that need to be broken? Yes. Are they curses? Probably if you only believe that they're curses. Because you really do have the power to overcome those things. Alright, so it's been a very long video. Thank you if you hung in there. That's all I really want to say about multiple personality today. I might come talk about it again later, but my next video is going to be a start. Okay, so see y'all later. Take care. And I don't mind what your opinion is. You can have your opinion, I can have mine, and we can all be coexist. You know, if you've lived multiply, then you know how to coexist with conflicting opinions. I don't care if you say I don't know what I'm talking about. In my experience, I know what the hell I'm talking about. You don't get to be 60 without knowing a little something. You didn't just fall off a 3-wheel turnip truck. I spent 30 years in therapy. I lost enough to multiple personality and all the stigma and the BS that people think it is. And I will not be shut down for telling people that's not what it is. This is more like what it is. Okay. Take care. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.